Alright Ben, here you are then. This is Total War Warhammer, and I'm gonna lead us through the first part of the Empire campaign. So when you start, you can choose from a bunch of factions. Some of them are paid DLCs because Sega like to siphon money out of your pockets. Unlike previous Total War games, which have a little bit of variance between factions, Warhammer prides itself on each faction playing very differently. So you have the Empire, who are your humans, and you can probably tell by reading what's down here. The humans are in a land that is entirely against them. Everything here wants to kill them. So their advantage comes from the variety of their units. They have well-disciplined and brave soldiers. However, they are humans in a world full of monsters, as you probably saw that Vargulf trying to attack them there. You also have the dwarves, which are very strong, hardy, even though basic infantry is armoured. I won't be playing with those, I think they're cowards. The greenskins, which are very unarmoured and are very, very aggressive. They rely on breaking through the enemy quickly and mowing them down. And the vampire counts, who have lots of weak infantry units, but their strength is in their beasts. But I won't be doing that. I'm going to do the Empire because I like them, and it's much more relatable to play as a human killing people than it is for a vampire playing vampires. So you get to choose between a few legendary lords, they're called. Here we have Karl Franz, this is one I'll be playing. This is Balthazar Gelt, he looks ballin', but I won't play him because I don't know how to play him very well. He's a wizard, his face got burnt off, and they have Volkmar the Grim, who is a sort of heretic purging priest. So let's jump in with Karl Franz. And skip through the intro cinematic because I've seen it about 1,000 times. So, the newly crowned emperor returned from a tour of the Reikland, which is the province that he's in, to find his capital Altdorf besieged by spider-riding greenskins, that's the orcs and the goblins. Having seen off the goblin threat, France arrives in his court to find the politicking of the empire already at its height. Middenheim grumbles, and to the south a secessionist rebellion is in full flow. France must tread carefully, or a wrong move now could split the empire asunder before his rule has truly begun. So the loading times are pretty crippling, so I'll try and fill it with bits of information for you. This is obviously fantasy. You can see here this dude, Balthazar Gelt up here, fighting what appears to be the vampire counts because they are the faction with zombies. It might be a little bit boring for you to see the Empire being played. I really enjoy them though because they tend to be... You need to think tactically to play the Empire well, otherwise you get overwhelmed. And I'll be leading you through the first fight. Maybe later on, if you enjoy watching this, you can say so, and I'll record some of the greenskins, or the dwarves, or the vampire counts, or the warriors of chaos, or the beastmen, all of whom play quite differently to one another. Yeah. How was your day? I hope it was cool. The Empire are really nice to look at as well because they all have very sort of Renaissance era flamboyant clothing. Like you can see here, there's like these slash shoulder pads, bits of gold stitched into it. Yeah, good stuff. The vampire counts are very brooding, but their units are very, very cool. The dwarves are imposing, but they promote a kind of gameplay that you've probably heard me complain about it to Jack. Anyway,
the greenskin threat is extinguished, sire. Yet the fight to secure...
Okay, cool. I don't care about all that guy says because I've heard him say it about 1,000 times. Every now and then you get missions issued to you, which will give you a little bit of reward in exchange for objectives. You don't have to do those, they just give you a little boost. I often ignore them. So here we have the Overland map, and if you look in the top right, I am this little red smidge here. Region is Altdorf, and the owner is the Empire, that's me. So a lot of it is covered by the fog of war, and because I'm a human, I am aware of other factions that are out there. I know where the other Empire states are, but I can't communicate with them yet because I'm a new emperor, and basically the secessionists down here, they don't owe loyalty to me. They don't feel like Karl Franz will do a good job, so they split off by themselves. So, two main units when you're on the Overland map. Cities, so this is the headquarters of all the Empire, Altdorf. You can see Altdorf produces 473 gold per term. Its public order is currently 0, but it's dropping by 2 per turn. If that reaches minus 100, this one reaches minus 100, a rebellion will start, and a rebel army, much like this one, will spawn and come to take it. This indicates the garrison. I have 14 units positioned inside. The AI controls those for the most part. And this little hammer here means I can build something. So when I click on Altdorf, I get this little display down here. And the Reikland is the province. Now every province will be split up between a provincial capital, which in this case happens to be Altdorf, which is always on the far left hand side, and 3 minor settlements: Helmgart, Eilhart, and Grunberg. Now these are all chained over with pictures of these skulls and shields, which is the Empire Secessionist faction. You can actually see one of their armies here.
I refuse.
Helmut Ludenhoff refuses, and he's often the first one to die during these playthroughs because he's an easy target for France. Now, so that's the towns. Let's have a look at the army. So each faction will have their own banner. So for example, the Empire Secessionists have this big skull, and we have this griffin with Sigmar, who is the warrior god of the Empire, emblazoned on it. This bar here indicates how many units it currently has, so we're a bit under halfway. And beneath it is the figurehead, the general, and it just so happens that we have Karl Franz.
Now,
that wasn't very inspiring. I was hoping he'd say something cooler.
bring me to my men.
Bring me to my men. There we are. That's somewhat cooler. So you start off with a few units. This game, Total War Rome 2, was a lot about formations and knowing 2 specific kinds of units and just working out what works out best for you. Warhammer is a lot more about knowing which units to use in which situations. So you can see down here on the left, always on the far left, is your general, and this little info pane here tells us all about him, and it's quite overwhelming when you first look at it. So it is Emperor Karl Franz. He is armoured, meaning that most normal damage will be ignored by him. He's armor piercing, which means armoured enemies aren't so good against him. He's a duelist, which means that he is great in one-on-one fight, i.e. with the enemy's general. Now, it is important to bear in mind that although Karl Franz is the leader of our faction, he's in fact a military unit. He can be deployed on the battlefield, which you'll see in a minute. There's only one of him, with a maximum of 1. He costs 270 gold per turn to upkeep, so he's certainly not cheap. He's got a fair amount of health, plenty of armor at 95, and a bunch of other stats down here that we don't really care about because it's hard to explain. So down here we have... oops.
This action does not have my consent.
Sorry about that. We have swordsmen, halberdiers, spearmen, handgunners, crossbowmen, and Reichsguard. This takes place early into the Gunpowder Age, so you're looking at about 1600, 1700, maybe earlier. They have rifles, they have cannons, but they're not like, you know, bolt action or anything. They're breech-loaded and front-loaded muskets. And you'll notice that, much like how Franz up here has a bunch of stats that tell you what he's good at, each of these will have different stats, which is very overwhelming. I at first didn't like this, but I'll get us into a fight. So once you select a unit, you'll see this yellow halo in the surrounding area, which is where you can move in 1 turn. Anything beyond that turns red, which means 2 turns. Beyond that is blue, which is 3. So we're going to move up closer to the Empire Secessionists.
Pick up the pace.
So Franz waddles his way over. We've still got some movement speed, but we're not going to bother using it. We'll click this button down here, which is recruit units. Now, because in Altdorf we have a training field, it's on the training field that soldiers first learn the most important of attributes, that of discipline, which is good because we need discipline if we're going to face the reams of monsters just outside our border. And you can see that at a level 1 training field we unlock swordsmen and spearmen, which is good. They form up the backbone of any army, but we'll need something better than that to bring down the secessionists and unite the empire under our rule. So I'm going to spend 2,000 gold to build the rally field, which unlocks crossbowmen, shielded spearmen, and halberdiers. Sadly, that'll take 2 turns. That'll take 2 turns to do, but I need to take these people as quickly as possible before they gain strength. So I'm going to go down here and recruit. You can see that up here is the initial upfront fee you pay for your trainers to train them, and your quartermasters to arm and armour them. Spearmen cost less to upkeep than swordsmen, which generally means one's better than the other. I happen to know for a fact that swordsmen are a little bit better for what we're going to do. So I'm going to make 2 swordsmen and 1 spearman. I can only recruit 3 per turn, and Franz goes into a mustering stance, which means he can't move for the rest of this turn, but he will be earning these units. So I'm going to hit end turn. And because it's a turn-based game, as it's cycling through all these people very quickly, every other faction is now taking their turn. The Empire Secessionists coming last. It turns out he didn't actually move, which is a very, very poor move by him. Helmut Ludenhoff, you'll soon perish, my friend. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Ah, okay, he agreed to fight me. Armies will get 1 chance to retreat, and try and... But the AI controls where you... Anyway, we won't bother with that. So, here's my army, headed by Karl Franz, and here's their army, headed by Helmut Ludenhoff. You can choose to retreat and run away. You can choose to auto-resolve and have the game decide based on this percentage bar how well you do, or you can fight it on the battle map. But obviously, you want to see me fight on the battle map because otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. Down here, in this little info pane, it'll give you the unit icons and it'll tell you what they're good at. So, the main advantage that swordsmen will have over spearmen is that the swordsmen are shielded and their swords having a bit less of a reach. They're not so good at defending themselves as a spearman would be able to keep a man at a greater length, but they're better at attacking, and I know that I have the numbers advantage, so attacking is great. Also in here are halberdiers, which are armor piercing, which is very valuable, anti-large, and has charge defense against large foes. Large foe counts as anything above the size of a horse. So halberdiers are excellent for killing knights. Knights who would be armoured on a horse and charging. You set up a line of halberdiers and a knight charge will soon be pulled to pieces and cut down. I've also got some crossbowmen who are my standard ranged infantry, good against lightly armoured or even unarmoured foes. I'll be telling you a little bit more about them in a minute. I've got handgunners who are better at hitting through armour. They can punch holes through the basic breastplates available in this time. They're armour-piercing missiles. However, they have a lesser range and they fire slower. And then here, I hope it shows the picture. I don't think it's gonna though. I think it might load before. You might notice by Karl Franz that this game is the Empire is influenced by Germanic culture. We're sort of like Holy Rome in some ways. So we have the Reichsguard, Reich meaning, I don't know, you probably know what Reich means, you know about Germans. So here we have our army all set out as they are here. The AI randomly assembles them into a formation. We won't be using that one though. So let's have a look at our battle line. Mainly, let's look at Karl Franz, because you've got all these big regiments of infantry here. However, there's just one man with a beacon above his head and a star icon. Star means general. Look down here, and here is Karl Franz himself. Yeah, he loves it. He loves it. As you can see, Karl Franz, apart from his hands, which is a bit dumb, is armoured to the teeth. These big pauldrons, this big gorgeous helmet work, big bright plumes of feathers, this big cape, so people can know when their emperor is in the battle. And believe me, he'll be in the battle. Excellent. So here is our swordsman. You can see that the level of detail in this game is absolutely gorgeous. Their shields are scratched, they're embossed with different insignias. Some of them are wearing steel caps, some of them are wearing these poofy hats, some of them wearing feathers in their hats. Each man has a little bit of individuality to them, even their mustaches, generally all their facial hair, the colour of it is different. Their breastplates will sometimes be emblazoned, sometimes they wear medallions, their pants are all different. Very, very, very nice. Sadly, these are not very good. They're very basic sword infantry, but they'll definitely do their job. 62 leadership, they're quite brave indeed. Over here, the Empire Endures informs my spearmen. As you can see, their spears have got quite a bit of length to them. That's a good maybe 2 meters, bit more. And yeah, these will be covering my flanks, because the aim of this game, less so than Rome 2 but still prevalent, is if you hit infantry from the front, that is where they are most deadly. If you hit them from the side, the outer ranks can turn to face you, but not nearly as effectively. If you hit them in the back, they are completely unprepared. The aim of the game, with Rome 2 at least, it applies somewhat to this as well, is hammer and anvil. Hold the enemy in place with one infantry, come around their side and kill them with a second set of infantry. Where are my crossbows? My crossbows are here, wearing very much the same armour set as the spearmen over there and the swordsman there. A simple metal breastplate and a metal cap. Obviously armed with crossbows. And the handgunners wielding their long rifles. Long rifles, ironic, because they're inaccurate as shit. And the pièce de résistance, much over Karl Franz, is the Reiksguard. Ah, the Reiksguard's knights are absolute war machines. They are one of the Empire's greatest units. These big armoured knights, completely covered from head to toe in gilded and heavily refined armour. These big, angry, barded war horses, beautifully decorated. Their helmets with gold filigree, their plumes, their lances even painted just for these battles. Absolutely incredible. Even their saddles are emblazoned with holy symbols, gold filigree on all these little details around here. They're amazing. The Reiksguard are incredibly powerful. You can see up here, armoured and shielded. Their shields help them, much like the swordsman over here. The Reiksguard shields will help them block a 30%, I believe it is, 30% of incoming arrow fire and crossbow bolt fire. And they're anti-infantry, which means they gain a bonus against people smaller than a horse, i.e. the enemy. But they're shock cavalry. You can imagine this big clump of horses hammering into an infantry line, but those big lances, once they've delivered the momentum of the horse and the horse has slowed down and stopped, those lances aren't very good. They're not very good in the cut and thrust of the melee, so shock cavalry, hit them hard, bring them back out and hit them again. But enough talking, let's actually get to the fight. So we vastly outnumber him, so I can probably afford to... he's pissing it down as well. I can probably afford to lose a lot of troops here. I'm not exactly invested. But what I would do in a normal situation is you'd form a battle line like this. That'll be my aggressive infantry. I would then cover my flanks at a slight angle, which is a bit more defensive. Actually, no, we'll go offensive and we'll tilt them outwards a little bit. So you can drag these formations into any shapes. Obviously, the wider you pull it, the more enemies you can attack at once, but the thinner the ranks will be. The more shallow the ranks will be. And then I'm going to have our men protected back here. I'm actually going to put Karl Franz just here behind the main battle line. Halberdiers, you're cool, but I'm not really going to use you, so I think I'll actually just leave you here. Oh yeah, the halberdiers' weapons, like, even their weapons will show variance. Like, these are very straight axe heads. These have got more of a curve. These are a crescent moon. Very, very nice. Lots of variance here. Ah, the Reiksguard. Oh, you'll see. We shall see. Alright, so I'm going to hover over all these, press G to group them up, and I'm going to begin advancing them forwards. Let's get right down. So the big thump, 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 thump of all the infantry marching forwards. The more infantry you have marching at the same time, the louder that gets. And obviously here you have Karl Franz wading amongst his men. There is a mod that makes the lords the same size as their fellows, but I think it's quite cool to have them as their default size, which makes them a bit more visible and a bit more vicious looking. Let's also bring the Reiksguard, because, like I said before, the goal of shock cavalry is to hammer the enemy with them, withdraw them, and then hammer them again. We can also hit delete and travel with the units. We can like zoom in and get a nice over-the-shoulder shot. We'll speed up time. Because whilst the two armies are advancing towards each other, that nothing's going to happen. I doubt Helmut is going to advance because I have the numbers advantage. So the AI will tell him to wait and react to whatever I do. Sadly, I vastly outnumber and outgun him. The Reiksguard and Karl Franz will be the deciding factor of this mission. There's really no way to lose, even though that says it's like 40% in their favour. If you have these types of units, you're not going to lose. Okay, cool. Everyone's formed up now. If I hold spacebar, I can see these yellow cones going out from my ranged units, which goes to here. So I'm not in range of their archers, and they're not in range of mine. So once I advance them over that line, I'm going to tell them to run. we might be able to see the first volley in a lovely cinematic view here in a moment. Who are they firing for? Okay, they're firing for my swordsman. So my swordsman, because they are shielded, you can read it here. Shielded this unit. This unit has a shield and will block 35% of all small arms missile fire hitting it from the front. So they've seen the archers, the crossbowmen firing at them, and they have automatically raised their shields to defend themselves. However, this will do damage any which way you go about it. So let's see this streak of arrows coming towards us. Horrible whistling sound. I've taken some damage, but I've not lost any men yet. Ah, okay. So, this is interesting. Helmut himself is charging at the front of his army, so we will meet him with... Oh, the handgunners have immediately laid into him. So we will tell Karl Franz to get stuck in there, because he's a perfect counter to Helmut. Ooh. We are telling our swordsmen to move on their spearmen, because we know that our swordsmen are more aggressive. Like you can see there, if I click their spearmen, I hover over my swordsman, you can see on the left there, our melee attack is higher, our damage is higher, but our defense is slightly lower. So whilst the spearmen will be better at defending themselves, they won't be able to withstand my swordsman's attacks. I will eventually break through them, which is obviously not good for them, and that is why the swordsmen are more expensive than the spearmen. Although they have slightly less melee defense, they more than make up for it in attack. Sometimes just having a high defense isn't enough, and the enemy will eventually butcher through your men. So let's get nice and low here and observe this first impact. Should we go uphill or downhill? Let's look uphill. Oh, brutal. Alright, we have men on the floor dying and dead, and the cut and thrust of the melee has now begun. There will be dynamic little fights that go on throughout the battle, but obviously we can't watch them. There's kicking, there's slashing, and there's a clear no man's land between them where the men don't want to approach each other. But they'll get in there. They're very, very brave men. Here is what we want to see. Here we have Karl Franz and Helmut Ludenhoff, this guy with the big shield here. The Lords have these big explosive swings when they attack one another. Oh, as you can see, Karl Franz laying into their swordsmen there. I think they have two regiments on top of each other, which is not a good idea when dealing with such a big legendary lord. It appears that Helmut Ludenhoff is actually managing to escape, so I'm going to get my handgunners to deal with him. Oh, but we haven't actually told our Rights Guard to move in, so we will quickly get them deployed before all the fun is taken. Let's see a salvo of rifle round. Alright, let's move Karl Franz away and let's get the Reichsguard through. So, we will tell them to move on the archers, who are so far the actual bravest. Where is the officer? The officer will be situated at the front in the middle, so it's this guy. So we're going to get a nice shot here. So they raise their shields at first, but once they move in for the charge, lances down, and... Oh! The enemy could not resist it. Far too powerful a charge for anyone to go by. And now, because the enemy is routing, I don't have to worry about the condition of my troops. I will tell my soldiers to stop firing. But now that the enemy is running away, they're of no threat. Their minds are completely consumed by retreat, and we can see the Rights Guard running them down. We'll actually have them charge one more time so you can see it from the overland rather than zoomed in. Wasn't a very good shot. Oh, these poor guys. What are they? Spearmen. Oh, if they only turned around, they could actually resist this charge very, very well. Sadly, they're running away. So... Oh, horses leaping amongst them, bloodied and battered bodies. That guy's actually lost a head. Oh, men being... Let's follow one... Oh! Oh, his arm came off. Jesus. Oh, his head came off. Jesus. So they will use their lances in the melee. If these spearmen weren't running away, I'd really be in trouble. But yeah, the Rights Guard, the elite of the elite. You are victorious. The corpses of the enemy litter the ground, and those still able to flee do so with the laughter of our gods ringing in their ears. Hoorah! And so when you hit end, you can see how many I deployed and how many I lost, and the relative kills that my men got. So our swordsman who got stuck into the melee got a fair few kills themselves. Karl Franz did a lot of damage from that huge splash attack that he can do. Our crossbows will always get a lot of kills from shooting the enemy running away in the back, but our right guard a whopping 110 kills all to themselves. You can see Helmut Ludenhoff did quite well for himself, took 15 men with him. Their crossbowmen must have laid into my spearmen. I wasn't paying attention, they don't matter. Luckily this is all very cheap infantry, so I can get them back any time. Their spearmen did quite well for themselves, but sadly Helmut Ludenhoff himself has died, and the Empire Secessionists are now left without a leader. Yeah, I could have played that a lot better, but you know, those cinematic shots are amazing. So you saw, albeit a poor example, when those Rights Guard were chasing the spearmen down, you saw a fairly bad example of what it looks like when shock units, or generally any cavalry, hit infantry, especially from behind. If you hit them from behind, like I was saying before, they are the most vulnerable, and from the front they're the most dangerous. If I ever do one of these videos, I'll do like, I don't know, the Beastmen, so I can show you the Razor Gores, but seriously, seeing the Right Guard hit a stationary line is awful. If I had deployed them a bit quicker when we saw that first exchange between my swordsman and their spearmen were facing my swordsman and they couldn't look away because they were being attacked. So those two were like bumping ends, their most dangerous parts were hitting each other. If I was a more alert general, I would have moved my right guard around behind them and charged them straight through the back, and the enemy would have more aggressive sword infantry hacking through their front, and this incredible array of extremely heavily armed and armoured super elite knights smashing them through the back. I'm pretty sure that would have broken their morale and made them rout in a single attack, but ho-hum. So Karl Franz, this game follows the lore of the universe quite well. I'm not very familiar with the lore, but your lords can get mounts. So the first one you'll get is a warhorse. Then you can upgrade that to a barded warhorse. Then it will become a Pegasus, as in a literal. Ah, here we go. So following a battle, you loot the battlefield and the dead for all they're worth. You sometimes pick up loot. So I picked up a Talisman of Endurance, which gives me ward save 15. That means any type of damage is reduced by 15%. That's actually extremely powerful. And I also ranked up, so I can spend some points in improving him as a leader, as a diplomat, or as a soldier. And then I can also pardon the captives, allow these warriors to return to their homelands for a ransom. Despite dipping into their treasury, the enemy will appreciate such a deed. So, you know, releasing humans back to humans, we're all sons of the Empire. Execute the captives, leave no captives alive. The foe and their allies will not look upon you kindly, but their enemies will respect your decision. So your men will... yeah, these men are feeling confident after cleaning up stragglers from the recent battle. Or we can take on captives. Force these troops to change allegiance and allow them to serve in your army. Questionable how that would actually work.
My orders are to move. I'll ignore them.
Helmut Ludenhoff was actually injured and didn't die, but that is how the battles go. A series of maneuvers and counter maneuvers. I can go into here, and he'll have the yellow tree, which improves his character stats, making him a more dangerous opponent to face. Battle effects, which improve the abilities of the soldiers to deployed in the field. They're very valuable. And campaign effects, which allow you to move further. You recruit people for less. You pay less for their upkeep. Your troops take less attrition from moving through hostile lands like swamps and forests and stuff. Plenty of things. I have mods which massively extend this, but this is the best bit though. Warhorse, upgrade to barded warhorse, so armor. Imperial Pegasus, the Emperor has oft ridden a majestic Imperial Pegasus in battle, but Karl Franz has a unique mount called Deathclaw. The bond between Franz and Deathclaw, the mightiest of Imperial Griffins, is legendary. So at rank 15 I unlock this huge flying war machine, turning Franz into an even more dangerous general than he currently is. But I won't be doing that now. I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, let me know if you want me to do more.